I'm delighted to report that Caelan Robertson has got his channel off the ground, and do go and see it. And there's a link at the end of this video to his channel. It's called what's it called? The Culture Report or something like that. And he's put up a very interesting video, which I found fascinating, about the way in which figures like Georgi Zakrevsky has dared to question Putin, and the pressure on Vladimir Putin from the oligarchs who are supporting him, who were supporting him, alongside the broader context of rising dissent and crackdowns on critics, signifies a troubling moment for the Russian regime. And Zakrevsky's recent public denunciation of Putin on video, especially from somebody entrenched in military and intelligence circles, is a clear indicator of growing unrest within Putin's elite and the armed forces. And his bold criticism, calling for the removal of Putin, reflects a broader sentiment of frustration, particularly with the failures in Ukraine and the perceived mismanagement of the war effort. Zakrevsky's rhetoric is particularly alarming for the Kremlin because it comes from within the system, from a figure who might have been expected to support rather than to challenge Putin. And his appeal to soldiers, urging them to recognize the dire state of affairs and join a movement to save the country, highlights a significant shift. Discontent is no longer confined to the general population or to opposition figures who can be put in prison and can die there, but is now emerging among those who have historically upheld and benefited from the current power struggle. And the decline in Putin's approval rating, as evidenced by recent polls, adds yet another layer to this growing threat. The Russian public's waning confidence in Putin, particularly in the face of the continued military stepbacks. We saw this the other day with the Twitter video of the old lady who was in Kursk, who says, "Where's Putin?" And she swears about Putin. And it suggests the regime's grip on power has weakened. The combination of elitist dissent and public disillusion could create a more volatile situation, potentially leading to further instability. It's not going to lead automatically to the end of the war. At the same time, the Kremlin's increasingly draconian measures to silence critics, such as the imprisonment of journalists like Sergei Mikhailov, who was there was a report this morning about him and about how he has been jailed in Gorno-Altaysk. He says that he wanted to challenge the fog of disinformation generated by Putin's propagandists, and he reported on the atrocities in Bucha and Mariupol. I know about the atrocities in Mariupol particularly because I knew somebody who was fighting there, who told me at first hand what was happening. So I don't accept any of the people who comment down below and say that I'm generating some sort of propaganda. I have spoken to people whose buildings, whose homes, whose factories were destroyed by the Russian advance and who fought bravely against Russia. They weren't Nazis. And these people, have resisted this invasion by the Kremlin. And Sergei Mikhailov is one of these people within Russia who has tried to speak out, a journalist. And Putin's efforts to silence anyone who speaks out, the laws against foreign agents specifically target journalists. There's severe punishment for spreading what is called false information about the war, attempts to stifle dissent, to control the narrative. But these actions serve only to heighten tensions as they further alienate those who are already critical of the government. The growing willingness of figures like Zarevsky and Caelan talks about Tinkoff as well, so people in the military, people, oligarchs who are prepared to stand up and question Putin publicly, something they would never have done. Even a year ago, they would have been too terrified of an open window. And the erosion of public and elite support marks a critical juncture in Putin's rule, or in the rule of those people who are posing as Putin. Because unlike Halen, I am not as convinced that Putin is still alive. I think that the Putin faction is particularly led by people, by the generals like Gerasimov, who are controlling the image of Putin because they have nothing else to offer. Putin is this icon of stability. Well, now that's gone. Now that's gone. So what will it be replaced with? And will this mean there will be meaningful change or further repression? My hunch is it will be further repression, because the high command of the Kremlin has already reconciled itself to the fact that Putin is no longer there. So taking Putin out is not going to change anything, I'm afraid. But it certainly signals a regime under increasing strain. Now, do please go off and look at Colin Robertson's video on the subject. He's much more erudite about it than I am. He's in Odessa, and he's reporting from a place which is much closer and which is threatened by Putin's malice. And like so many journalists, I mean, he knows journalists who have been killed in Putin's strikes. Putin is striking specifically at journalists, and the efforts to dismiss all this as propaganda. This is all part of that effort by the Kremlin to disparage, to silence anyone who speaks out. Sadly, there are parallels to be seen in the Israeli campaign against Gaza. But silencing the messenger, this seems to me to be a sign of a weak power that is trying to impose itself, and it's a sign of desperation. Putin and the Kremlin do not have right on their side, and they have fear, they have deceit, and they have intimidation.